What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. For those of you who can't get enough of my dulcet tones here, I have made several guest spots recently on various other pinball podcasts, so I thought I'd take a moment and plug those. I was just on the Pinball Podcast with Don and Jeff, episode 63, where we talk about Gottlieb's solid-state masterpiece, 1980s Circus. I was also a guest in the EM Dungeon with James Willing on the Spooky Pinball Podcast for the last 2 months, where we talked about the effects of cost reduction in pinball machines. This month's conversation turned much more towards the bingos, and those of you looking for more bingo talk will enjoy that episode as well. So again, if you just can't get your fix of Nick, if waiting 24 hours is unacceptable to hear more of what I have to say, then I'm just broadening the amount of Nick talk that's out there. So, check out those shows. You can find the Pinball Podcast at pinballpodcast.com, and you can find Spooky Pinball, home of the EM Dungeon, at spookypinball.com/podcast. Both of those shows are phenomenal. The hosts are very gracious and generous to have me on their show, and I very much appreciate it. Check it out. So I mentioned last night that I saw something very odd, and I wanted to confirm that it was actually real and intentional before I mentioned anything about it. I haven't worked on a huge number of 4-player Gottlieb games, and I went over to my friend Taylor's last night and played his awesome Super Soccer. And he showed me in the back of the head that the Jones plugs for that game, which connect the playfield and the cabinet to the head, or the head vice versa, just kind of flop down and hang in the back of the game. And I've honestly never seen anything like that. And it's very unlike a lot of what Gottlieb did. Most of their stuff is really thoroughly designed and thought out. So I found that kind of strange and jarring compared to what I would have expected. But what they do is they just have this panel which is wired up with all the female sides of the Jones plugs, and you dangle it down from the head into the cabinet through the neck, and then you take your Jones plugs and the male side and you plug them in to that panel, and it just floats there in the air. And I was talking with Vic Camp tonight, and he told me that Gottlieb did this on several games, including some wedge heads, he thought. So that's kind of crazy. I never would have suspected that. And I will say, Taylor told me straight up, take a look. There's no place for these to go. And I said, that just doesn't seem right. So I looked all around, lifted up the playfield even, and was just looking for the place where those Jones plugs would mount on that panel. Couldn't find it. It's because it didn't exist. It's just very, very strange. So the other thing I learned today is that not all wood rails were created equally. I have been working on refurbishing this Valley nightclub, Bingo, and one of the things that I needed were some new side rails. The old ones were not in a shape that was easily restorable. So I decided to, see what was out there. And I talked to a guy and told him I needed some rails. And I said, pretty much anything should fit on here. Turns out I was wrong. The Bingo wood rails are shaped completely differently from the pinball wood rails. The regular non-flipper, the flipperless games, but made by other manufacturers and at different times. So I thought I was going to be able to take these rails and just nail them into the machine and I'd be all good. That's not the case. So, in fact, they're constructed in such a way that I can't even easily route out a portion of them to make them fit. So, as it turns out, they have to actually be the right shape. Who would have thought? Working on some ways to get some other ones. I'm talking with the guy that I got the other rails from. I'm going to send him measurements, which probably would have helped in the first place. But I was so sure that any rails would work. So, oh well. So that's all the oddities I've run into this week. I'm sure I'll run into more here soon. But thank you very much for listening. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at nbaldridge, or you can listen to me on my website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.